Let's take a look at the first chapter. So the first, like most security books, you start by talking about the threats. We're going to talk about why attackers attack you, what type of attackers are out there and stuff. So the first thing is motivation of the attacker. This might seem unimportant, but it is important because you can predict who might attack you, sometimes by what kind of industry you're in and who your enemies would be. Typically, there's three categories. There's espionage, financial gain, and disruption. There's people who want money, and there's people who are enemy military that want to steal secrets, and then there's people that just want to destroy things for various reasons. Yeah?
I was going to ask if disruption was the people who just want to see it be burned, but you covered that later.
Yeah, that's right. There's people that just want to break it down for some reason, like they hate your government, or they hate your business, or they are a competitor to your business, and they want to take your site down so shoppers will come over to their site. That sort of thing happens. So you might want to steal intellectual property like movies or software. Yeah, and the supply chain attacks are really important, and right now there is a huge supply chain attack exponentially exploding across the NPM package repository and PyPI and others. What happened is, about 2 months ago, attackers got some API tokens that were just left lying around, so they could get in the supply chain of a product and poison it, and they poisoned it with code that would steal more API tokens. And recently they poisoned a product called Light LLM, which is used by a lot of AI development companies. And for half an hour, the poisoned version was being distributed. It infected all the major companies, Microsoft, Google, and everything, and they stole their tokens to poison their products. So it's expanding and expanding. It's crazy. And this is a very scary attack, because if someone poisons the official updates from the official company, how are you supposed to know? And one defense, which a guy has made a proprietary personal tool that worked, is before he puts on an update, he asks an AI to scan the code and says, does this code look safe? That should probably be part of updating procedures in the future. But right now, there's no commercial tool that does that. But we're going to have to do that, because even when you get the official update from the official channel and it's signed, that doesn't mean you can trust it. Now, this all started about 8 years ago when Russia hacked SolarWinds, and they poisoned the SolarWinds tool, which is used by all the major corporations for remote control. They spent a year preparing, they got in the supply chain, they added malware to the official update and infected all these American companies and placed them under Russian control. That was really scary, and it impressed on people how dangerous the world is, how you can't trust the official updates from the official source. And I might as well mention also, the Israelis did this to Hamas. They spent years getting into equipment manufacturing, and they put bombs in the pagers and sold the special deal to Hamas, and then blew up all the pagers to harm all the Hamas members. And then they gave Donald Trump one of those pagers, gold-plated, as a souvenir, and he's like, I'm not sure I want this. And the point is, how do you know how much other stuff has been poisoned with hidden bombs in it? Your cell phone could have one. Your supply chain could be compromised for physical devices and software, and how would you ever know? Yeah?
Clarification, that was Lebanon, but yes.
Oh, it's Lebanon. Yeah.
It was Lebanon, but the same idea.
It wasn't Hamas, right? It was another group. Hezbollah, thank you, good. Yeah, anyway, the point is, how do you know that there isn't poison hardware in your stuff? And there was a recent news article that the Russians compromised phone equipment that was bought by a neighboring country. They found Russian backdoors in it, and that's why the American government has now banned Chinese Huawei devices on our networks and stuff, because they're worried that you could do this. It's totally possible to add Trojan code, and the NSA has done it before on targeted attacks. They've intercepted UPS segments of Cisco routers, inserted more hardware, and then delivered the compromised router. It is a perfectly good attack, and that's supply chain attacks. It's very worrisome, because as an ordinary user, what can you do? You put on the official update, you're trusting that company. What else are you supposed to do? Not put on the update? Then there'll be a known attack that will come in. It's a tough thing. Then, of course, financial fraud, stolen credit cards, and so on, and extortion. One kind is sextortion, which is really harmful, where you get some nude pictures of somebody by pretending to be a member of the opposite sex and flirting with them, and then you threaten to expose those pictures, and then you make them do all the things, you make more videos and stuff. This is an incredibly damning crime. A lot of people commit suicide, and it ruins their life. They do it to teenagers, often teenage boys, and if they catch you, you spend like 20 years in prison. It's a really serious crime. But it's going on the internet, and other kinds of extortion like ransomware, where they encrypt your files. All these bad things are happening. Various attackers do it. So as
there was a guy in Norway who hacked like a whole mental health system.
hacked which?
The whole
Oh.
A centralized mental health system.
I didn't know about that, but that's certainly
It's
there. I
some
know,
Scandinavian country.
BetterHelp was actually using real customer experiences and testimonials to promote the product. That was a big scandal for that.
There was something recently about them using it for like train AI.
Yeah,
There was
yeah.
that. But yeah, there was a Darknet Diaries episode on the
Oh.
Scandinavian too.
Yeah, I didn't see that one, but Dark Knight Diaries is awesome. Very good. Anyway, so, all right, so then there's motivation espionage, either international or corporate espionage. Military power, of course, which is what's happening right now. 20 states have had their water districts hacked by apparently Iran. We're at war with Iran, and they could hack our critical infrastructure to punish us. They haven't done anything too bad yet, but they totally could, and they probably will. Then there's political hacktivism, where you try to make some kind of point. This is what happened a lot in 2011 and 2012. Anonymous and LulzSec and Anti-Sec would hack organizations because they disapprove of their politics. And then, of course, revenge. Disgruntled employees will come back and trash their company. This happens all the time. You should revoke people's access to your network before you fire them. But a lot of people don't do that, and so they have an angry administrator that comes back and deletes their virtual machines and backups and things like that. All right, so there's a lot of methods. Denial of service is where you just make something unavailable by either crashing it or flooding the network with unnecessary traffic. And you can use an amplification attack where a small amount of packets gets multiplied into more packets by there are services like NTP and DNS where a small request can lead to a big response, so you can amplify your power that way. There are worms, like the worm that's spreading through supply chains, where there's code which executes and makes more copies of the code and spreads over a network. Ransomware, we talked about, they encrypt your files. Typically, you do double ransom. You encrypt your files and charge money for the key, and then you also steal the data and charge money not to leak it. And you expect to get paid twice. That's the common way you do it now. Phishing is sending emails or instant messages where you try to get someone to click on a link or an attachment. And spear phishing is where you research first and carefully write a message that will get the target emotional. Like around here, probably anywhere, you say, here's a message of layoffs, and the attachment is the list of professors that have been fired, or something about parking, or the roads, or building construction. All of those would probably get people to open that attachment and override any warnings because they're emotional. You get people upset, and then they will throw away caution to the wind and have to see what's in there. Business email compromise is really a big one. If you can take over a business email server, which is usually not that hard to do, then you can send emails from inside the company that say, okay, I'm the CEO, I just made a deal with someone, we're merging, so you need to send a bunch of money to this address, that sort of thing. You get a lot of money that way. A lot of people have fallen for this. If you have an email that appears to come from inside the company, then people should have procedures where anytime we're sending money, I have to actually call the boss on the phone at a known number and get approval, but most people haven't thought of that. So when they get a request, they aren't sure whether they should do it or not, and you can often trick them into doing it. And these days, the AI tools can make deep fakes, so there are actually cases where there's a Zoom meeting with 3 or 4 executives of the company that all got in the meeting and all talked in the correct voice and looked good and authorized it, and they were all fake. They made clones of these people. The deep fakes are getting pretty dangerous. Then there's watering hole attacks. If you don't want to leave traces, like if you do a phishing attack, you did send an email or an IM to those people, and they might find that later. So maybe you want to attack people and leave no traces. So instead of sending them a probe of any kind, you just put up a website that will attract them. The Chinese started this when they wanted to target Tibetan activists. They put up a web page about Tibetan activism and put malware on it, and then you just wait. They'll come there to read the page and get infected. And another thing about it is this is how you could attack somebody when you don't know who they are. You don't know their email address or their phone number, but you attract them, and then you attack people that come there. The fact that they came there means they're probably in the group you're attacking. Then web attacks use various technologies. Cross-site scripting sends data to the web that includes JavaScript, so it executes in someone's browser and can do something like steal their cookies. Cross-site request forgery sends a request to a server that appears to come from an authorized user. APIs are endpoints on a server that can do things like create a user, change a password, make a purchase, and often, very often, you'll have 10 or 20 of these functions available, and your mobile apps work by calling these endpoints, and some of them forget to verify the authentication. So some of them will just let you do something that only the administrator should do, but they forgot to make sure that you were really the administrator first. This happens all the time because if you make that mistake, nobody will notice. The app still works, the phone works, everything's fine. Until somebody tries to do a bad thing, you won't know that you forgot to authenticate one of those requests. Then there's wireless attacks. These are in the news now. I think it's a Chinese actor is currently compromising access points in public places like airports and changing the DNS settings. So when you connect to the wireless network, you get a strange DNS server, which is run by an attacker, and therefore it'll mostly tell you the right resolution of DNS, but some of them it'll send you to a fake page where it steals your data. Then you can sniff data that's passing through on our wireless network. You can use art poisoning to put yourself in the middle. That's a privileged position. And if you're in the middle, you can sometimes intercept things like login pages and replace them with fake login pages and harvest credentials and such things. You can do crypto mining. This is a really lame attack and usually not very effective, but it's cheap and easy. You infect them with code that mines Monero. So it uses up a lot of CPU and you make some money. This is one thing people do when they get the ability to execute code on a machine. And then password attacks like we talked about. Brute force is where you try many passwords for one username. Spraying is where you try many usernames for one password. Both of them can work if people don't have defenses to stop them. And then, of course, you can just steal passwords. People leave them lying around. You can just bribe them. People just sell passwords on the open web. You can usually pretty easily get some passwords to get into a company, which is why everybody really needs to use two-factor authentication. It is too easy to defeat password authentication. If you have a second factor, like an alert on your phone, then it's a whole lot safer, because even if somebody steals the password, they won't have the second factor. Yeah?
Other thing, or you just leave the default password on.
That's another one, yeah. A lot of things are deployed with default passwords or no password at all, like OT things. Yep. Anyway, so then you got various attack models. People who try to describe the stages of an attack. Yeah, go ahead.
I just had a question about that. So I was wondering what you think about how, with two-factor authentication, Windows has an app, for instance, that lets you just mirror messages on your phones. And I think it's kind of you can legitimately have a two-factor authentication, log into your computer, and have the message that goes on your phone appear on your computer. That almost kind of ruins the point, right?
Well, you're right. You're right. If it all goes to one device, then you can just compromise that device and defeat it. You're right. That's why SMS, for example, is very insecure, because it's easy to intercept SMS. Having an app on your phone is somewhat better, but you're right. Two-factor does have weak spots. For example, here's another one. After you log in, it just gives you a token, like a cookie, and if you steal the cookie, they can get in. That's why all of these things have their limitations, but two-factor is a lot better than one-factor, but two-factor has these weak spots, like you say. Yeah?
Since two-factor is everywhere, it's super obnoxious when they text your phone.
Yeah.
My Messenger app, it'll delete two-factor text messages after 24 hours.
Yeah, but by then it doesn't matter. They're usually only good for 5 minutes anyway.
Well, it's to figure inbox, you don't have
Yeah.
5,000 messages.
Yeah, that's something. Yep. But they're right. There are various. What would be better would be biometric. That's the modern standard is passkeys based on FIDO, where you have to verify your face every time. That's better, of course. Yeah.
And then fingertips too.
Or your fingerprint. Yeah. Yep. Anyway,
People still using YubiKeys?
what's that?
People still using YubiKeys?
YubiKeys are very good.
I use them.
Yeah, Google switched to YubiKeys, and they said after they did that, they had no successful phishing at all, where you actually have to have this physical USB device or you can't log in. That's pretty good. Bad guys can't steal that unless they physically steal that device.
As long as you don't lose it.
That's true. Well, you have to have some way to recover it. But then if you're a company like Google, you probably make people really go into the office with an ID card, don't just mail it to them or anything, and then you could make it pretty secure.
Google's crazy because they make you RDP into their computers if you want to.
RDP into a computer?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Remote desktop protocol. Yes, remote.
Yeah, that's the correct word.
Yeah, remote control over computers is often what you want. Yeah, these are very good points. All right, so here's some attack models. The original one is the Lockheed Martin kill chain. The modern one is MITRE attack. So you have phases. They're all like this. You have reconnaissance, where you research the company, find out what kind of technology they use, what kind of goodies they might have, without contacting them. Then you finally gain execution somehow with phishing or some other technique. But typically what you get is low privilege on an end device, like a laptop or something. And then you have to escalate privileges to get administrator on that device and then start moving through the network, taking over more and more servers. That's lateral movement. One common technique now is living off the land. If you use malware, you're likely to get busted by the antivirus, so you don't use malware. You use legitimate system tools like sysinternals tools, Microsoft tools, tools from third parties like SolarWinds, Citrix. You get commercial tools that are not malware and use them to move through the network. That's called living off the land. Then you do your damage. You do whatever you came for. You steal something, you break something, or steal some stuff and exfiltrate it. Whatever your goal was, you achieve it, and then typically you try to clean up and remove the evidence so they can't easily find out who you were and what you did. Not everybody does all these steps, like script kiddies that just do smash and grab attacks. They don't bother to clean up. They just steal the credit card numbers, leave. Espionage, advanced persistent threat, they typically want to hide, like they did in Google in 2010. China hacked them. They put persistent malware on the servers to steal. They hid very carefully. They snuck the data out, carefully encrypted in small batches, and they planned to just stay there for years, living quietly in your network, stealing your stuff, and you'll never know. That's what the espionage gangs do. That's the best way to do it. And when they did get caught, but they had left time bombs that would sleep for 3 months or 3 years and then wake up. So they've infected your backups. You clean it, you think everything is fine, and later on it wakes up and you're owned again.
So
Yeah.
how do you find those?
Finding time bombs is almost impossible. A few times people have found them. The problem is they're not recognized malware. You could scan your server and find everything that is not a known commercial tool, because there are known. That would be one way. Then you'd find everything custom. But I imagine they found everything that was added after a certain date. It's a good question. It's not going to be easy. Those are logic bombs. There was a logic bomb I heard of at a company where they was going to wait like 6 months and delete everything, and they found it before it went off. It's hard to know how they found it, though. That's a very hard search.
If anyone's got the staff and money to do that, it's Google.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, many companies could do it if they think to do it. Yeah. Anyway, all right, let's see. All right, so let's talk about the adversaries. You've got these days, like I say, they're typically stealthy, professional, and organized. These are the militaries and the large groups. And so you list their tactics, techniques, and procedures, the things they do, and you can help identify what they do once you figure out what group is coming in. And that's what the attack matrix has. Let me just point at that. It's going to come up later, but I'll mention it now. This is the modern framework, the attack matrix, the MITRE attack matrix. Lockheed Martin had about 5 or 6 steps. This has 14 steps. So reconnaissance, resource development, initial access, execution, persistence, so it remains after reboot, then privilege escalation to move from local user to administrator to domain administrator, stealth to hide, defense impairment to stop your antivirus and other defenses, sealing credentials, discovering more systems and devices and data that you might want to take, lateral movement to take over, move through the network, hop over, then collecting data, command and control, remotely controlling devices inside the network, and then exfiltrating data and other impacts you might have. This is the modern technique, and there's all these sub-techniques. So this is the modern structure of an attack. And of course, not everybody does all these things, and they rate defenses by which of these they will stop, and they rate attack groups by which ones of these they like to use. There's a lot of information. In fact, you can see that up here. If you look at, there should be attackers up here. Why am I not seeing them? They've hidden it somewhere. Somewhere there's a list of attackers, threat actors.
You don't have to click on the technique.
Do you see something up here?
Like, if you want, I think you need to click on the technique to see like the list of people.
Enterprise. No, that's where there's techniques, but there should be there's a list of attackers which they've hidden somewhere. This is what AI is good for. Where did MITRE hide the attack threat actors? There is a list of them, and somehow they rearranged their website to hide it. Everybody always does this. Okay, where is it?
Those kind of groups.
The hack groups page. They didn't hide them. Well, they hid them from me. There they are, the groups. There used to be groups up here. They hid it somewhere. Anyway, there they are. Here's all the groups, and then it'll tell you who they are, what's known about them, what their techniques they like to use are, so we can find the Russians here, which will be Bear. Cozy Bear, for example, is one of the Russian groups. Fancy Bear. Okay, this is Fancy Bear. That's one of them. APT 28, one of the early ones. So if you go here, here's all the names, and here's the description, and it's going to show you their campaigns, and then it's going to show you their techniques. Here's what they do. Out of all the techniques, these are the ones they've been observed to use, so you can kind of identify who's attacking you by what they're doing, and you can, if you can guess who might attack you, you can guess what they would do, and so on. You know, this is the attempt to try to organize all this information.
So that's the kind of information like the government would collect to build like a
Yeah,
repository.
MITRE attacks, they're not exactly government, but they're close to the government, and then it's used by everybody. It's used by people that make firewalls and antivirus, and by people who do instant response. Everybody uses this to organize their thinking. So you rate your product by which of these it will stop, and you consider your attackers, consider which ones of these are likely to come in and all that. It's just, this is the first step of turning something into science. Cybersecurity has just been an art until recently. They're trying to make a science, and the first step of science is to categorize something. You just sort things: animal, vegetable, mineral. First, you just sort them into categories and give them a name. That's the first step to make it scientific, and that's what this is. Because right now, this field is not a science. You would like to say, right now your security is a 4, but if you buy this $1 million firewall, it will be a 5, and that will save you this many dollars. That would be nice. We don't have anything like that. We can't prove that security measures save you money. We can't predict how much money they'll save. It's all just an art. We think that going to two-factor will make you safer. We think putting on a better firewall will be better, but you'll still get hacked anyway. So, like I say, some people, we were talking about this earlier, some CEOs just take a fatalistic attitude and say, we're going to get hacked, just accept it. It's not even worth trying very hard to stop it. You could say that might be the financially responsible decision. Anyway, this is the beginning of trying to make a science out of this. Just categorizing things and giving them names, so at least we can tell if we're talking about the same thing. But it's not incredibly valuable and effective just yet. But it is the first step to try to organize this stuff and make it scientific. So anyway, like I say, you can get credentials, find API keys or buy passwords, find unauthenticated points where you can get in with no password, crack password hashes, use pass-the-hash attacks, where on Windows networks you can find a hashed password and use it without cracking it. Just the hash itself can be used to authenticate. So there's lots of ways to bypass credential authentication. Yeah.
So they can steal your hash and then use the hash?
Yep. You can send the hash over the network without cracking it.
Even if you have multi-factor authentication?
No, if you have multi-factor authentication, then the hash will not be enough. It'll also ask for something else.
So it sounds like essential to have complicated password and multi-factor authentication.
Yeah, these days, I think everybody needs to have multi-factor authentication everywhere, and almost nobody does. Even if they put it on the administrator accounts, it's not on the other accounts, and there's all the non-human accounts, like the automated logins from services. They often forget to make those two-factor.
So
Yeah.
if they get in on a non-admin profile,
Yeah,
they can escalate their profile to
Yeah.
the system
yeah,
and still hit it.
yes,
But if you had multi-factor authentication on the non-user account, the
That's right.
non-admin account, that would stall them.
that's right. If they had if you really had multi-factor authentication on everything, it would be hard for them to get in. It would slow them down. Of course, they can still get in by bribing somebody, or by putting malware on the machine and getting both factors. Nothing's perfect, but multi-factor authentication is a big improvement. Yeah.
The two things I have to I use YubiKey and the passwords I'll never be able to remember is my email and my password manager.
Yep.
So if they get your email, they get basically everything.
That's right.
You reset everything from email, so it's like the main thing you want to protect.
That's right. That's why your email account is usually your most important thing. If people get in your email, they can usually get in your whole life. Yep. Those are all good points. All right. And that's why people ask me what home users can do, and I tell them what you can do is get a password manager or just a book where you write them down. Quit using the same password everywhere. That's the first step. The next step is turn on two-factor wherever you can turn it on. Yeah.
That's kind of related to something I was going to ask is, do you think, because this is something I've noticed in the last couple of years, a lot of browsers are pushing you now, especially with Google, to just have all your passwords in the password manager.
Yep.
So do you think it's better to have one password that you memorize and use everywhere, or have 30 passwords that your browser memorizes?
The second one is much better. And the reason I learned this is because everybody keeps getting breached. So if you use the password, they're going to be an idiot and lose it. And if you use the same password elsewhere, you're screwed. That's why these password spraying attacks work. They use stolen passwords. So you really need to have a different password at every site, and therefore you need some help remembering it. Some people will write it down in books. If that works for you, password manager works. Then the password manager is a high-value target, and sometimes it gets compromised and they steal them all. But using the same password on multiple sites is the worst thing you can do.
So,
Yeah.
Even the in-browser password manager.
Yeah.
You need, sometimes that needs a password too, especially if you have like the thing on multiple browsers or devices. So you still need to remember that one password.
That's right. I mean,
Standalone product for each password.
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
of them still need, even if you were to use a browser as your password manager inside the browser, you still need multi-factor authentication for that.
well, that would be best, yes. I'm not aware of anybody that offers that, but that would be good.
With the browser-based ones, you can like get into them like different ways.
Most of them you get in without a password, that's right. So the ones built into the browser are often the least secure. The one people recommend most is Bitdefender. That's the current hot one, open source, highly recommended.
Bitwarden.
I like NordPass.
Yeah.
Bitwarden.
Bitwarden, that's it, Bitwarden. Bitwarden is the one.
And one password is also. another big one.
Yeah, Bitwarden and one password. One I'm using is, I think, password one, which is not very good, but I just got used to it.
I think they self-host Bitwarden.
LastPass, I'm using a LastPass, and they actually got hacked. They're considered,
they got hacked?
they got hacked a few years ago, and so
Like,
I really ought to migrate over to Bitwarden one of these days, but I haven't bothered yet.
I used to use
Yeah.
KeyPass and just sync
Yeah.
that one file between my computers.
Yeah, and I see somebody answered this question about groups, that's good. Anyway, let's try a Kahoot. These are in-class quizzes that just help stop people from falling asleep. You don't have to take them, it's optional. It's worth extra credit if you're in the top 3 scorers.
Where is that?
It'll be, it's Kahoot.it, that's right. It'll be coming up in a minute. Yep, it'll come up on the screen in just a minute here.
On the website,
What is that?
No, but it'll be on the screen in just a minute. Library, 152,
Yep, what's that over there?
and then chapter 1.
do I have to make a private website?
Yep.
There you go.
You want it?
Oh, that's not it. Well, this will do, I guess. All right.
You can show the thing right now. in fact.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
So take a look on your left. There we go. He's loading right now.
There you go.
Is this like, this is a Jackbox thing where you just do the pin
Oh.
and you get in?
So go to Kahoot.it and put in that number and choose a name.
It's on the top now. It's still there, it's just on the top now.
Yeah.
824598.
Yeah.
Oh, I see it on the top.
Good?
Yeah, thank you. Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, good.
824.
Yep.
I love these things, Professor.
Yeah, most people like them. Some people don't like the game show, but most people like it. More fun than a lecture. I learned it from the Air Force. Air Force put this in their product to train high school students, and I said, that's good, I'm taking that.
I feel bad for people in the Navy right now.
What's that?
I feel bad for people in the Navy right now.
Oh, yeah, bad. I know. It's bad. That's because the Iranians blew up their supply depots is why they're not getting resupplied. And they don't want to admit that, so they're pretending it's okay for them to get no supplies for months at a time, when it is not okay.
You see the thing about them, like promising, like, early access to GTA 6, it's like, it's fun,
I heard something about that, where you're gonna get Grand Theft Auto to,
Yeah, that guy. In a chronological order, he got access to the leads, and he tried to blackmail the studio. The studio won, and now he's doing this. But actually, it's only exposing gravel as mad he actually is. Because he's essentially saying, I'll pay for my Bitcoin to get into the early access to this thing.
there are a lot of nuts out there.
Successfully exploit and let the guys do all the work.
Well, I guess we've got people, everyone's coming. Let's give it a shot. All right.
Yeah, everyone is.
All right, so what single control has the greatest impact? Yeah, MFA is the best thing you can do on this list. Right. Usually, a step in any incident response is switch to MFA. That's usually a big part of keeping them out.
RSU, super sensitive house.
Right. And hacktivism, what's that? Yeah, political protest by hacking somebody. All right?
Whoa.
Yeah, sure. All right, and, all right, what are the three broad categories of attacker motivation? Yep, this is the one, espionage, finance, and disruption. All right. Record the winners. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording and record these winners.